We're ready to go. Let's hit him with it.
We sure are ready to go. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to game number 1 here between VortiX and 3DB in this best of 5. VortiX going to be spawning in on the northern side of the map here, playing as the Mongols in the color blue. Finding a pretty good spot here in between the gold and the wood. But Tim, who's spawning in on the right-hand side of the map?
Oh, his opponent for this series, playing in the color orange and playing as the French, it is 3DB. And Merlin, my first question for you is, where are B's villagers?
They're all the way over here. He's only moved 4 of them out. He's gone for the ponds here, so I like this decision a lot. It's something we see it tends to be the standard on this map. Sometimes we see players look to go out for the deer, but fish definitely makes the most sense here. It's the fastest gather rate for any food source for villagers, at least. For fishing boats, it's going to be deep sea fish, but you know, for villagers, this is the best food source that they can gather at the moment. So that's going to be really nice there for B. VortiX, we actually sees sort of doing the same there. We saw one villager was actually out on this pond where he gathered 10 food from. But there it is. VortiX now going to be dropping down that barracks. He's going to be going for a tower rush here, Tim.
Yeah, and you need to against the French, right? The French in Dark Age is probably the only age where they want to be left alone. They want to get their build. They want to get the school cavalry as fast as possible to get that Royal Knight. Those shoreline fish for B are pretty synergistic with what the French want to do, especially because those Royal Knights are so food intensive. They're 140 food, right? So when the Mongols can get a barracks and get those spearmen out ×2, maybe try to put a tower down, but B goes with a barracks of his own. He's going to try to match the Mongolian spears.
Yeah, interesting decision here. Sometimes we do see this on map like Golden Heights. That's usually where we see a lot of Dark Age aggression. Not so much on a map like Wetlands. But I like this decision. I think it's smart out of B. He just needs to make sure he can mass enough spears here. Because you gotta remember, VortiX here can double produce because he's got the Uvu. So B is always going to be behind when it comes to numbers. So B has to be careful not to over-invest here. Otherwise, you know, he could be stuck in the Dark Age.
Yeah, that's definitely the main point, right? And I think for VortiX, I mean, again, we're going to be talking about their barracks. The Mongolian barracks acting like Noah's Ark. They're pushing them out 2 at a time. B, not so much. The only thing he just needs a couple spearmen around. Maybe it's not necessarily has to have the same population of spears, but needs to have some around to disrupt a tower from going up. So it's not necessarily, you know, being on the defensive and having the defender's advantage could save him a little bit if the spearman count for him ends up being too little. But as we're looking at it, it's only 5-4. It's not terrible.
Yeah, it's really not too bad for him. You see, he's still got more in the queue. VortiX, it looks like he's stopped for the time being. Now, sometimes what we do see from players is towers. Obviously, a tower only costs 100 wood, whereas a barracks costs 150, and then you actually have to make the unit. The problem then is you're not securing up all of your resources. With spearmen, they're mobile. They can move around different resources on your base. Whereas a tower, it's stuck in one position. So VortiX could, if he wanted to, look to tower rush the wood. He could tower rush the food. He could tower rush the gold. And I think that's why he's picked the Mongols on this map, because there's so many spots to where he can tower rush.
Yeah, and I mean, if you take a look back at B's base here, while these spearmen, these pokeboys will be chasing each other till the ends of the earth, but if you take a look at B's base over on the east side, I think that gold mine would be a pretty good spot, only because that second pond where B is a little bit to the north of that, so you're able to take out a little bit of the Gaia food resource. You make him go to the southwest to that deer patch. It's a little bit more raidable in that area, so it could be a good tower there, but we haven't seen any villager pulled from VortiX, so could this all be a bait, Merlin, and be like, oh, I just made the French make a barracks and make 8 spearmen, so I guess that's a win, right?
I guess so, but I think the problem here for VortiX is he sees the spearman coming out from B, so he knows he can't pull the villager yet. I think if he can somehow win a fight here in the Dark Age, spearman versus spearman, he would then pull the villager, but we can see B He's reacted to this pretty well. Needs to be careful not to overinvest here. We were talked about this, right? You cannot overinvest here if you're B, because VortiX, he's already aging up with the Silver Tree, and being stuck in the Dark Age up against Mongol trade is somewhere you do not want to be.
Yeah, and I mean, for B's Spearman, which is different from VortiX Spearman, for B, you're thinking, okay, you made a bunch of Spearmen, you're going to use them on the defensive, you ended up preventing the tower. Now he's trying to get offensive with them, right? You can see them streaming across the map. He's going to try to find some villagers to kill or something like that. But if you look at that, where that Mongolian town center is, you have Spearmen right there by the shoreline fish, but look at where the Mongolian town center is. There's only gold there and wood. The town center is right there. It's not going to be able to be a raidable area and a pasture there for sheep already. So he ends up packing up the gur, he packs up the villagers. Everyone's like, come on, guys, let's just go home. We'll get the sheep. We don't need to worry about seafood. It's not that important.
Yeah, it's definitely a nice spawn for VortiX here. You can always look to pull in the boar somewhat as well. I don't think you'll be able to get it to the town center, but it will be protected by the town center at least. So I would say he's got a pretty decent spawn here. We see trade post all the way up in the north side of the map here. He should be able to get some decent trade if he can somehow stop these spearmen from actually burning down the Ubu and barracks here. But we see their hardened upgrade immediately coming through here for VortiX. As soon as the upgrade comes through, B is not going to be able to take this fight despite having the mass advantage. And B, he's going to be edging up behind this with a school of cavalry.
Yeah, he has the school of cavalry with 3 villagers on it, so it's going to take him a little bit longer to do. VortiX getting that hardened spearman upgrade is very advantageous for the Mongols. Obviously, you're going to be expecting knights, but the thing is, for 3DB, he might not necessarily want to go into spearman later into this game, so he's still putting resources into something like hardened spearman if he were to get that upgrade, just to maintain the map control that he has. But it's not necessarily a unit that's going to sustain him over the long term. So we'll see what 3DB wants to do going into feudal, but you already saw that silver tree packing. That trade post in a super good spot.
Attack speed arrow comes through for VortiX here. He's still got the upgrade through. B, his upgrade is not even in the queue yet. This is a fight. VortiX, it looks like he's still going to be losing though. The mass advantage just too big for B. Seems like VortiX is missing a couple of his spears here. He's got 8 out on the field, just not all of them over here. And a lot of them low on HP, so that means he has to fall back here. But behind this, we see VortiX's trade starting to set up on the back here. No villager being sent out quite yet for the market, but it looks like he's going to be building it in the base. So going for a little bit of a shorter trade route here, it seems. What do you think about this? Because this isn't going to provide that much trade compared to if the trade post was all the way in the left-hand side of the map here.
Yeah, and I mean, if I were to guess just with that market, he's probably going to get maybe 30, 25 gold for this route. I'd be surprised if it was more than that. And the only reason why I think it's kind of okay is because it's safe, right? You're just making sure that those traders don't end up dying initially. And maybe it's something over the long term that he wants to maintain. Now, with VortiX having, just because he has the hardened spearman, he's going to continue to make spearman. He's got some horsemen as well, which is kind of, to me, it was kind of a perplexing choice as to why to do horsemen, because the French, they already have spearmen on the field. So I'm not really sure about that choice, but he's still going to be making spearmen. He's still going to have spearman numbers. So when the first Royal Knight does hit the battlefield, VortiX is going to be prepared.
Yeah, we can see B has gone for a second TC here. He's also got 150 stone in the bank. I don't think it's going to be for a third TC, as we see he has completely stopped mining it. So I think it is just going to be the 2 here. I think going for 3 could be a little bit too greedy, as we see that market is now going to be moving out. But we just see very, very slow there. The traders, they're on the way. They're just going to be doing a little bit of 0 gold per trade for just the time being till that market sets up in the left-hand side of the map. And this is usually why we see a villager moving out instead of the market itself. Just because you can build it a little bit faster. Because we just see there, it's so slow moving out. But VortiX is going to be moving some villagers over just to this deer pack. This is actually a really nice spot for food. You got berries, you got fish, you got deer. So he's going to be feeling pretty happy about that one. But B, first a few Royal Knights make the field. He's going for a little bit of everything here. Spears, knights, and archers. Up against VortiX, who's making a little bit of everything as well.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty nice for B in this composition. I was wondering to see how the barracks was going to translate, into feudal age. But having those couple of spears, it's going to help against VortiX horsemen that are there. I mean, when you're dealing with a Mongolian that has silver tree, you got to be thinking about mobility, right? You got to track down those traders from all the way across the map. And a good point that you made on that market, with it being mobile, villager doesn't have the idle time of traversing all the way across the map, right? So it's just one of those things that the Mongolians can benefit from. So as soon as that trader stops doing the hokey pokey and turns itself around, maybe it'll be able to hit that market and we'll get a crisp, I don't know, maybe like 130 gold-ish, something like that. Now B, he does have a second town center, but there's been an age-old debate in season 4, the end of season 3, about if trade is better, more town centers are better, or something like that. The trade pays off a lot quicker than a second town center. So if VortiX can keep the trade route alive, I like his odds.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe if this was like 3 TC and you're playing as the English, possibly then you can maybe outboom trade. But I mean, look at this. VortiX, he has some crazy trade going already. Up to 144 gold and 14 food a trade. And look how many traders he's already got. That is going to be a huge drop-off right there.
Oh, I mean, that's 600 gold. Just right to your resource bank immediately. So you can get whatever upgrades you need or anything like that. If he has a blacksmith, the blacksmith upgrades cost gold. The economy upgrades also do. But B doesn't want to let this trade route continue. Maybe you can't really get those first like 5 or 6 drop-offs. Maybe you don't have the time. But he's going to park those knights right by the silver tree. But spearmen are right there to greet him, Merlin.
Yeah, looks like he should be able to hold this for the time being, but look at this. He's brought the whole army with him. Archers going to be able to take out the spears here. And it looks like VortiX doesn't have enough of an army here to push onto B. So that will mean these knights, they get through, going to be able to clean up the spears here. VortiX does get through the drop-off though. We see so many resources get deposited into his bank right there. Look at all the resources he's got now. That is absolutely huge. And that's what's so strong about this trade trick, right? Something that is being nerfed or fixed next season. So hopefully we won't see these sort of crazy trade trips so quickly out of civilizations like the Mongols. But it's what VortiX is making to make use of at the moment. And as a result of that, he can just stack up so many resources. And he's going to be able to go to Castle Age now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the most important thing, and that's why the silver tree works. But it looks like he's going to take this battle before he goes into Castle Age. Spears on spears, horsemen trying to get a surround on those French archers in the back line. There's a lot of spears, and I think there's enough spears for the knight count that's here.
I mean, even if VortiX takes a somewhat inefficient fight, it's not going to be the worst for him. Because, as you mentioned, he's going to Castle Age, right? That's what matters right here. So we see he's going to be able to clean up enough of the army here to be able to keep B away from the trade. And even if the trade does go down, VortiX has done what he wanted to do with it. We see that step redoubt is going to be coming down here in the base here. And that indicates to us VortiX isn't going to be going heavy on the trade. Because otherwise we'll be seeing the Kurultai. So step redoubt indicates to us he doesn't really care about the trade anymore. It's done what he wanted it to do. So now can age up with this landmark and carry on just gathering gold normally.
And the step redoubt is more out of necessity, right? I mean, this trade route, as you can see, there's French soldiers all over it. These donkeys are going to be dead very, very soon, especially with knights getting them charges off on them. But so that gold is going to end up hitting the ground. But now with the Mongolians, we talked about them yesterday a little bit for how they like to play, and they like to skip feudal age essentially entirely. It's been about 13th minute. Feudal age has now been skipped for the Mongols. B might have a little bit of added pressure to actually get to Castle Age. We'll see what his plan is going forward. But VortiX, he's going to make some Castle Age Lancers. You can see them in the production queue in the top part of your screen. And just because they're Castle Age, they're going to do well against those Royal Knights.
Yeah, exactly. You do still need to build up quite a mass of them, though. Because having 3 Lancers out in the field compared to 11, despite them being feudal age, that's not a fight you want to take.
No, absolutely not. I mean, it's going to take him a while to actually get those. It's nice that he has 3 stables, so he's going to be able to do it pretty quickly. The step readout's going to help him in the gold generation department, and he does have some pastures built up already. So one of the things for the French is very difficult, even though they're ahead on that economy count very highly. That 47 villagers for VortiX looks like to be safe unless they're going to venture out to that shoreline fish. That could be an issue, a raidable area later.
I think he's in an alright position, though, as long as he can keep alive all of this economy that he's got going for him, as well as the knights. and he can somehow get to Castle Age, I think he's going to be looking absolutely fine because he's cleaned up a lot of the trade, right? We see only a couple traders left on the field for VortiX. I think you can afford to just back off at this point, get the age up through, get all of those crucial upgrades such as Royal Bloodlines, and go in for round 2 then. But B, for the time being, looks like he's committing to this fight here. We see so many Lancers out for VortiX, but it's still a huge mass for B. It looks like he's going to be able to hold on, but is this a good fight for him? We see he's losing so many knights.
Yeah, right now he's got about 10 left. There's 2 Castle Age Lancers and that Khan. That Castle Age Khan going to be more of a nuisance for those knights as well. I think it's just, you're exactly right. I mean, for B, you can't stick around perpetually in feudal age and making inferior units. I mean, he kind of has 2 different decisions. He can continue with Royal Knights and go really high on the quantity, or upgrade them, go up to Castle and go for more of the quality. But I think the longer he sits with VortiX having Defender's advantage, I think it's going to be difficult for him to continue to mass up.
Yeah, but I think a big problem here for B is that he has to keep up the aggression. We can see here, he's on all of the food sources dotted around the maps. He hasn't added in any farms yet. So if he stops the aggression here, VortiX is going to put the aggression onto him. And B at the moment can't afford a farm transition.
No, and it's such a difficult part for the French to do, right? Actually saving their wood, because usually they're so food and gold heavy. You got to make those knights. B has 5 knights in queue. That's a lot of resources to use. You're not really worried about wood or putting villagers on wood, so doing a farm transition is rather difficult. And on a map like Wetlands with a lot of shoreline fish, you'd rather get those. B finally getting a couple more worker kills. You can see on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, those worker kills were predominantly traders, if I remember correctly, and only a couple of those villagers went down.
Yeah, B also grabbing a lot of his upgrades now. That melee defense, now Iron Undermesh coming in, as well as Chivalry. So it seems like B's still going very heavy here in the feudal age. He just doesn't want to stop the aggression because he can't afford it. But I feel like this just gets better and better for VortiX here because he's taking just the better fights with the Lancers. We see he's up to 9 now. He's still got more in the queue, grabbing those Blacksmith upgrades now as well. I'm not sure how much longer B can afford to be taking fights here in the feudal age.
And exactly to also allude to your point that you mentioned earlier, if B does back up on the aggression, then VortiX just starts making traders.
Yeah, exactly. I think we may have a couple. Yeah, we still got a couple traders out here for VortiX. Nothing amazing. But yeah, he can still make more. And that's the power of the Silver Tree here, right? Only costing 30 gold and 60 wood a trader. It's huge, right? So really, really nice there for VortiX if he does want to continue trading. But B, he's still got a huge mass of knights. Look at the amount of knights here. VortiX, he's still got a small economy. He needs to be super careful here with his villagers because B going to be jumping on these no textiles in. And that's going to be a lot of dead villagers. We see here B now up to 17, 18, 19 kills.
I'll tell you what, though, Merlin, even though there's no textiles, I don't think a change of clothes is going to help those villagers with their lives. A lot of them went down there. VortiX at 48. He's at half the economic count. Those Royal Knights, whether they're Castle Age, whether they're Feudal Age, they don't care. They want to get that charge up. Defense arrow going to be coming out for the Khan, trying to help him out. This is an age-old quantity over quality situation with the town center in the back for the Mongolians kind of helping them out. Let's see if those Lancers can actually pull it out of here.
It looks like B's going to be taking the win there on that fight. We see he's even come out here for the fish. He's taking all of VortiX's resources right now. And B, he's just happy taking this fight. And the thing is, behind this, he's looking to go Castle Age himself. It does look like he just spent a load more res on Knights. But he should be able to age up relatively soon. We see he's still up by 3,000 when it comes to that army value. And with that, GG gets called. VortiX,
whoa,
he realizes that he's not going to be able to do much damage. I think we had some more raids going off as well on north side here. What an abrupt ending right there.
Yeah, that's why I said whoa reflexively. I did not assume it was going to end there, especially with 3DB still being in feudal. I mean, obviously we have the background information, right? We could see the military count of B having 30, most of them being knights. We could see the villager count, him being at about 100 to VortiX's about 50. I would have assumed that when B got to Castle Age, maybe there would have been a GG, but with VortiX being an age up, I was surprised he actually called it that early. I mean, hindsight, looking at it, we can understand why. But from VortiX's situation, I don't know if I would have the game sense to actually do that.
Yeah, that is true, but you got to remember B on 2 French town centers. VortiX would have known that. And VortiX, he got to Castle Age, right? But what did he do with it? He didn't find any raids. Usually when we see this Mongol fast castle action, they love to go straight to Castle Age and then they spam out knights and just raid the hell out of the opponent. But VortiX didn't really find that.